The following is a presentation of the Cruiser Chris World Network. If you like what you see, please follow the information on the screen to show support for us. Please like, subscribe, and share. Leave organic comments along with likes on the videos to show that you've been here, and it'll make it easier for us to find our way back to you. Thank you for your support and have a good day. Today's video is going to be about an in-home seating assessment for a brand new manual wheelchair. Want to find out more about TiLite Aero X or any of the other TiLite products? Follow the information on the screen to do just that. Want to contact somebody in the New Ulm or Cambridge Adapt Health locations? Use the numbers on the screen for that. We hope you enjoy today's program.
Just start over.
I'm going to back up.
There you go.
Outtakes not sponsored by Cruiser Chris World Network.
Bloopers. The blooper reel.
There you go.
We got the blooper reel going.
Hello, this is the Cruiser Chris World Network. Today, we are going to watch as an assistive technology professional measures me as part of the seating assessment process in my home. He will explain why we have to have a seating assessment to get me a new backup manual wheelchair. We hope that this video is helpful and informative for you, and that if you do need to get a new backup manual wheelchair, that you can use videos like this as a reference point. Sir, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Paul Weisbrod. This is my second time on the Cruiser Chris World Network YouTube channel.
Yes, you've been here before.
I've been here one time other than this, and I am a assistive technology professional, and I'm going to be helping Chris get his next backup manual wheelchair.
Okay. What chairs did I have before for a manual wheelchair?
Yep, the last two chairs that you had, at least that I know of, because I've seen them in your house, you have a really old Quickie 2 Lite, and then the last chair that you got a little between 5 and 6 years ago was a Quickie 2. So they're a little bit different. One's a little bit lighter weight, one has adjustable camber and some other features, and one doesn't. So.
Okay. And you brought out a chair today. What was that chair called?
The one that we were gonna look at was an Aero. Well, the one that we want to look at is an Aero X.
Okay, what was the one you brought up today then?
Today I brought out a rigid framed Ergo. It is an Ergo seat TiLite, which you quickly were like, nope.
I rejected it.
You rejected it immediately upon sight.
Mm-hmm.
So, and somebody else has the chair that I wanted to show you today, but I got to measure you so I can get a different one so that we can get you squared away, and then we'll look at both the rigid frame and the folding frame side by side so people can see the difference.
Okay, and we're gonna do this in another future video, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
in a future video.
So you'll be making 3 appearances.
That's right, at least 3. Yep.
At least 3, maybe more.
You never know.
Yeah. So could you explain the difference between what a rigid frame and a foldable frame is?
Yep, a rigid frame manual wheelchair is gonna, it's all in one piece. Sometimes the backrest will fold down, but the tires are removable just like on a folding frame chair, but the body of the chair, the frame of the chair does not fold, it's rigid. That's why they call it rigid. And the advantages to that are you're gonna get more energy transfer to the ground. So every push that you give the chair, you're going to get more of that to the wheels, to the ground. The frame isn't sucking any of that energy up, and it's going to be lighter, considerably lighter.
Okay. The previous 2 chairs I have are Sunrise Medical.
That's correct.
So, are you still a fan of Sunrise Medical? or upon further consultation have you made a adjustment?
No, I think sunrise is good. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to look at something else, because then you have the opportunity to say, oh, I'd like to stick with what I'm used to,
Okay.
or you can decide to make the jump to something different. I think maybe it would work a little better for you, and that's why I just wanted you to check out a couple other chairs so that you can make an informed decision, because that's my job as an ATP, is to help people make informed decisions on the piece of equipment that they're qualified for.
Right. As you have discussed before in a previous video. Are you ready for the questions?
I was born ready for the questions.
What made you want to be a rehab technician or assistive technology professional?
What made me want to be an assistive technology professional or a rehab tech was I like working with people, and you get to do that every day in this line of work. And I do like helping people that do have disabilities. So when I was kind of growing up, I had a job working with, in junior high school, I worked in the special needs program. I took a class. It just kind of was a fluke thing, but I ended up taking a class where I was an assistant in the special education wing and helping out with some kids there doing stuff. And it seems like it kind of just set me down the path, because I eventually worked in group homes with disabled adults, and then kind of got into home medical equipment, and from there jumped to rehab tech when the opportunity came around, because I like helping people and I like fixing things and solving problems, and that's what we do for sure.
Okay, here's the second question. How did you learn about your mechanical talents? Was it something you have always done since you were a kid?
Nope. I did not know how to work on anything at all until I got my first project vehicle. When I was 18, probably 17, 18. I got a Jeep, and it was a piece of junk. It was a Wrangler, and I loved it. And it was a total piece of garbage, and I worked on it a lot, and that's where I started developing those skills.
Okay, here's an additional question.
Okay.
How did it's not on the sheet, so I'm
that's okay.
gonna come out. How did learning to repair the car help you to learn chairs eventually?
Because chairs and cars and rocket ships and washing machines and refrigerators and everything, they're all just problems to be solved. I always tell people it's, anybody can learn to fix things if they want to, because you just take off bolts until the part falls off and then reverse the order to put it back on, right? But there are some things that you can't teach, as far as like how you and I interact, and the fact that I love your jokes and things like that. You know what I mean? Like those are things you can't teach people to enjoy, and that's just as important as fixing the bearings on a caster tire.
Right. What I am a sit-down stand-up comedian.
Yeah, I know you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
What is the difference between a rigid caster and, because I remember in the previous interview you were saying you want to make sure that you get the right wheel so somebody's not chattering their teeth out of their head.
Oh, there's a difference between a standard tire and a soft roll. Okay. There's a standard caster, which is very thin. They're 1 inch wide, and they're very hard. And then there's a soft roll caster, which is wider, usually 1.5 inches, which doesn't sound like a lot, but then it's a little bit softer material that the tire is actually made out of. So it rolls a lot nicer. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's the difference between like having solid tires and softer tires in a vehicle. One of them you're going to feel every little piece of gravel you drive over, and one of them is going to absorb some of that impact.
Okay. Here's another question.
Yep.
What are some of the things you have to consider when making an equipment choice for a client?
I don't make any choices for the client. I make suggestions. So the things that I consider for somebody like you that's like, hey, I want to get a new piece of equipment. Things that I consider are, there's three things really, ultimately. What is insurance going to cover, right? What does the person qualify for? That'd be number one. So what is Chris? What is whoever we're choosing? What does John Smith qualify for medically? What will insurance say, yes, this makes sense to? Okay, that's number one. Number two is, what does the person want to do? Do they want to go outside and go camping in this piece of equipment? Do they want to are they the person that likes to go, do they work in an office complex? Do they like to go to the Mall of America? So is it important to have aggressive tires or smooth tires? Because aggressive tires are going to be hard to push in an office building, but they're going to be great for somebody who goes camping all the time. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then the third consideration would be, what does the person like? So I walked in here with a rigid chair, and you said, Paul, you're fired. Basically.
What are you?
What are you doing here? Yeah, right. So, and that's okay. That's good, because now we can cross a lot of those things off the list. Does that make sense?
Right.
So we kind of narrowed down our choices by just a couple things.
Yeah. Why would you? Obviously, would you recommend a folding chair, a folding wheelchair, or a rigid frame, or would you recommend it based on whatever situation you might be in?
It's situational, but on the whole, I recommend rigid wheelchairs.
Well, okay, why?
They're better in every way. They're lighter, so they're easier to lift in and out of the car. And when you take the tires off, in my opinion, they actually get, as long as you're willing to take the tires off, it becomes more compact in the back of the car. But they're lighter, they're easier to push for the client or for someone who has to, push them along. And they're stronger. There's less moving parts. And whenever there's less moving parts, there's less weight and less things to fatigue. But some people really need a folder, and that's okay. It's just, that's, like I said, that's how you kind of, now you pick an avenue, and then you just go down that one and find the best piece of equipment that's down that avenue, if that makes sense.
Would you say that the folding chairs are a bit weaker?
No, they're strong, but they're heavy, because what you have on a folding frame chair is you have a bunch of equipment in the middle of the chair that has to go like this. It's got to fold. Okay. So all that metal that's there on a folding frame chair is going to be kind of adding weight, adding stuff.
Okay. And I actually have a chair that is a folding chair.
Yep.
So I'm going to have the producer go and grab it, and we're going to hit pause for a minute. I see the chair, so.
You just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, we're ready to go. So.
Okay, so we were talking about folding frame chairs, and all the stuff that's not in a rigid frame chair is right here. And this has to be really strong, because it's got to support your weight when you're in the chair, right? It's got to keep the chair from overfolding and expanding and falling into a pile of parts on the floor, and you along with it. So this is pretty thick aluminum in this case, with a bunch of steel bolts and brackets here like these ones. So that adds up. It adds quite a bit of weight to the chair, plus the fact that you have to have a second set of tubes on the bottom of the wheelchair frame in order to make the folding chair itself work. Okay. So you're getting a lot more material into the chair to give it the function that you need, which is the fold, but it adds a lot of weight, which in turn takes a lot more energy to push around.
Okay.
So, but some people just, that's what they need to have for what they do, and then that's why they make them, and they're very popular. So a lot of people need them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yep.
What kind of tires would you recommend?
For what?
For the manual wheelchair.
It depends. That really depends. This is good for a backup chair, these ones, because they're going to roll pretty easy inside and go to doctor appointments and stuff like that pretty easily if your power chair is down.
Okay, what are those tires?
These ones are solid tires. This whole tire is one solid piece.
Okay.
And so they make all kinds of tires. They make tires that are filled with air. We call them pneumatic tires. They make racing tires. They make basketball tires. They make big knobby off-road tires that are like mountain bike tires. So So that's kind of where we get into what is the person going to be doing and what will insurance cover,
Right.
right? Because if you said, well, Paul, I want 6-inch wide tractor tires on my manual wheelchair, I would say, well, Chris, that's great, but you're going to have to, well, they don't make 6-inch tractor tires for them, but we'd have to find a different way to fund that, because insurance isn't going to say, oh, that makes sense. He needs big, giant, knobby off-road tires for his backup chair.
So if I was a Special Olympics athlete,
Yep.
obviously, if I played basketball or was a racer,
Yep.
I would have to have different tires.
Correct.
So where would, if, I'm just going to use this as an example here, where if I was a Special Olympics athlete and I was a racer,
Yep.
where would I get the funding for those?
And you know what? I'll be honest with you. I've never gotten a Special Olympics athlete a piece of equipment before. I would be willing to bet that there are grants for stuff like that. I'm nearly positive.
Sponsorship.
Yes, exactly. Sponsorships. I'm sure that the manufacturers would be more than happy to help somebody who's trying to do that.
Okay. We're going to go to question 3 now.
I'm ready.
Mr. Weisbro, you
Okay,
ready?
I'm ready.
We're adding some additional
I know, you're getting more than you paid for.
B-roll, but yeah.
Woo! Man, money's worth.
Yeah.
All right.
If you had not gotten into the field of wheelchair repair, what do you think your career would be?
I think I would still be helping people in some way, shape, or form, because that's what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I probably would have gone into special education, because that was one of the things that I was kind of headed towards when I was in high school. I was kind of waffling between all sorts of jobs and what to pursue, but that one was kind of at the front of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I probably think I would have wound up doing something in that arena.
So you started out waffling, but now you're pancake.
Now I'm a pancake. Yep, you got it.
Yep. I have a question here.
I'm ready.
As we all know, the producer has given me a question here.
Yep.
As we all know, Minnesota has 4 seasons.
Yes, it does.
3 seasons I like. The
Okay.
fourth season I don't like,
Which is winter, I'm assuming?
which is winter.
Okay.
Of course.
All right.
The snow. And for those of us who have to drive through the snow, can you put tire chains on a chair?
They don't. I bet you that somebody who is handy and inventive could get studded mountain bike tires onto a chair. But as far as I know, there's no tire chains for manual wheelchairs. They probably make a snowblower tire chain that would fit onto a power chair, but it's not something that I would ever put on.
Okay.
Because then I'd be responsible when you drove through on your carpet and ripped it all up with your tire chains.
Okay.
I'd be party to that, which I can't really
Okay.
I can't really do.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
What
Do
are
they have winterized specific tires then?
Yeah, they have
that
tires.
you can
Yep.
change out?
Yep. Permobil is a company that makes power wheelchairs, and they offer snow and ice tires
okay?
for power chairs.
Is that something like, let's say, because for me to get around during the winter, I get very stuck in my wheel.
Yep.
Okay. Is that something like if I talked with you or Tim, who we've talked about before in the future,
Yep.
to get my electric wheelchair, which will be coming up next year?
Yep.
Is that something I can get covered through insurances to get those tires that are switchable?
Yeah, because it's a second set of rims, just like people have with summer and winter tires for their vehicles. It's a second set of rims. You may be able to get it through a waiver program. I'm not positive. I've never actually funded those through insurance before. I have had people pay out of pocket for them, but they may have not had access to a waiver program or an insurance that would cover.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep. Let's see, number 4. What are 3 skills you would recommend to a wheelchair repair person? What are 3 skills you would recommend that a wheelchair repair person needs to have?
I think that person, number 1, can't be afraid of doing things they've never done before. because recently we were trying to work on getting me a new technician, or a technician to work with me up in Cambridge, and I've said that to all of the candidates, I think, is that you can't be afraid of doing new things, because you're going to be doing something you've never done before every week. At least once a week. In my opinion anyway, maybe as the years go on I won't feel that way, but after 6 years I still feel like I'm solving a brand new problem at least once a week. And then I would say that you have to just be familiar with the tools, and you can't be afraid. Number 3, and I know that's probably not what you were expecting, but then the third, so you can't be afraid. You have to know some tool stuff, right? Like I learned a lot of stuff working on a vehicle. That's not a wheelchair, but and then the third, yeah, it's similar, nuts and bolts, right? And then the third thing is you can't be afraid to ask for help. Okay. Some people have a really hard time asking for help, and we have all sorts of resources. You know, whether it's a coworker or tech support from the manufacturer, there's all sorts of resources out there to help us take care of our patients, and keep them going, keep them doing what they want to be doing.
You also have to have patience for the patients.
Yeah, you might definitely need some patience for your patients.
And for the equipment that you use.
That's very true as well.
Okay. We're going to continue in just a moment with the question list. And if Mr. Weisbro, if we're running low on time, please just let me know.
I'll let you know. Okay. I have to leave in a little bit, but we can keep going.
Okay. What is your most important tool? Here's a question that's not on the list, but
the most important tool that I have in my vehicle is probably, as far as fixing things goes,
yes,
probably a multimeter.
What does that do?
That will tell me all I need to know about electrical resistances and continuity and voltages, and for power chairs, it's critical. You got to have one or you'll never be able to figure out what's going on a lot of the time. Because I have to know how much power is coming to the joystick or how much power is coming to the battery. If your chair won't turn on, I got to be able to find where the power stops to figure out why it's not making it all the way to your joystick, or because it could just be a bad inline fuse that's down in the battery harness, or it could be your circuit breakers failed, or there's so many things that it could be, and you can't see electricity. At least I can't. So it's one of those things, you got to have a multimeter to be able to solve those kind of problems.
You're not that talented.
I'm not that talented. I'm working on it. I try every day to see electricity, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so we're going to go to number 5.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the differences between the two following titles? Rehab technician, which you used to be,
mm-hmm.
and assistive technology professional.
Yeah, and I still do all of my, what I used to do in addition to the ATP stuff, assistive technology professional stuff that I am doing now, just because they did pick someone for the position that I vacated, but that person won't start for a little bit longer. So I would say the biggest difference between the two, I would have to say the biggest difference between the two is responsibility. I feel like there's a lot more responsibility that rests on the shoulders of the ATP than on the shoulders of the rehab technician. And maybe not more, but it's just different. It's a different type of responsibility.
Okay, can I kind of try to distinguish the difference between, okay?
Yep.
So what you're trying to say is where if a rehab technician comes up maybe with the wrong part.
Yep.
Okay, we can just call the manufacturer, get the new part, and have the rehab technician come back out with the new part.
Yep.
If you screw up something with as an ATP for somebody,
yep.
That piece of equipment that you well, I'm not saying you.
Yeah. Me theoretically, in the story.
Theoretically, you.
Yep.
Screwed up on is going to be with that person for 4 or 5 years.
Yep, and you can always. I think what makes a good ATP is what they do when a mistake happens or when something goes wrong. Well, what are you going to do? Are you just going to leave it or try to have somebody else take care of it? Or are you going to take care of it yourself? And this, I mean, I guess maybe what I was trying to say is the stakes are just higher. Because if I help someone choose a cushion that's not right for them, or if I custom mold someone into custom seating and it's not done properly, that person could get a pressure injury. I mean, and that's a big deal. You know, the stakes are a lot higher. Somebody could go from being able to move around in a manual wheelchair. If I get them a manual wheelchair that doesn't fit them at all, they're not going to be, they won't be able to propel.
Right.
You see, if it's too high up, they can't reach with their feet. If they're a foot propeller, there's more at stake. I have, you know, there's just more at stake. The stakes are higher.
Okay. So we're going to now continue with the questions, and thank you for the additional answers.
Yep.
What are some of the most challenging things about the field that you could change? If you could change them, why would you change them? Should I ask that question again?
No, I got it.
Okay.
What are the most challenging things about the field that if you could change them, you would, and why, and would you change them? I think the most challenging things about the field for me is a lot of times I feel like I don't have enough time, at least right now. I think part of that is the fact that, you know, I'm just kind of in the early stages of figuring everything out as an ATP, coupled with the fact that I'm kind of a one-man band right now. I mean, I'm getting help on all sides. I ask for help all the time. The technicians from a different branch help me all the time, and the guy who's going to be replacing my old position helps me out quite a bit too. But just I have a lot of hats that I'm wearing right now, and I think that probably is part of that. But I feel like a lot of times I feel like I don't have enough time to get to everyone as quickly as I would like.
Right.
And I don't like to be the person that slows anything down. Okay.
And I think that new technician is going to be Adam, is that right?
That is, yes. That is my understanding, is that he accepted the position. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I've worked with Adam before. He's very nice.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Oh. So, number 7, how do you know what is the appropriate piece of equipment for somebody? What are some of the standards that you have to measure to find the answer to that question?
Okay, so number 1 standard would be funding. What will insurance cover? What's deemed medically necessary by insurance? If somebody wants to self-fund, they can get whatever they want, and then that kind of opens up your options. But and the second one would be anatomical measurements. I can't put Chris into a chair that's built for someone who's 5'2" and 98 pounds, because Chris is quite a bit taller than that, and he's a full-grown man, so he's the size of a full-grown man. Right?
I'm about 5'9".
5'9".
Yeah.
So, but I can't put you into a chair that would fit a very small person. And then again, the last thing would be what does somebody want to do? What are they looking to achieve in their piece of equipment?
Right.
Are they, what features do they need? What kind of tires do they need? What kind of joystick do they need? Does it need to swing in and out of their lap? There's a million different options, and we got to figure out what we need to do to make that piece of equipment work for them and enable them to do life, basically.
Okay. As we get near the end here, I'm going to have you talk about the backrest that's over here, but
okay.
Obviously you are a long way from retirement, but what I don't know what that is.
Number 9 there?
Number 8.
Number 8, oh, what kind of personality do you think a person must have to work in this field as a rehab technician or an assistive technology professional?
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I think you have to be very patient, for one, because you're dealing with patients, like you said. You got to be patient with people, and I think you have to care about people in general, not just people with disabilities and not just people without disabilities or people that need help or don't need help. You just have to be a caring person, because otherwise this job would, I think that doing the type of work that we do needs to fill you up and not drain you out. Because I don't think that a person would be able to handle it for very long if this wasn't fulfilling to them, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, now we're gonna go see here's what happened, folks. I was reading number 8 and got it confused with number 9. So now we're gonna go ahead with number 9. So
All right.
obviously you are a long way from retirement, but when you do retire, what do you want to be remembered for?
I think I want people to remember me for, for one, doing a good job, right? I mean, everybody wants to be good at what they do, but I think what I want my clients to remember me for is always taking care of them. I don't want to be somebody who just pushes things off, or you know what I mean, just like, oh, I did my part, now I'm done. I just want to be remembered, I think, for taking care of people.
Yep. And you have done a lot of things for me, Mr. Weisgrove, personally, that you didn't have to do. So
yep, that's good.
So thank you for
you're
that.
You're welcome, of course.
Okay, I know you haven't worked at Adapt Health for too long, but I was wondering, can you already tell some of the differences between Adapt Health and Allina Health?
I think one difference is they changed our structure, so we're not separate anymore at the branches, and I can only speak to this because I was a branch employee, so I was 60 miles away from our main office at a smaller office. And we're all of Rehab is together, so I have a lot more resources kind of available to me. I have more people that can help if I'm bound up and I'm talking to Chris and somebody breaks down up in Hinckley, Minnesota, or East Bethel, or whatever, Elk River, somebody, they call me, I can call the repair guys in the cities. I can say, hey, Brandon, hey, Greg, hey, whoever, I need your help. This person is broken down. Can you please call them and go out and take care of them? And it'll get done.
Okay.
Which is awesome. I mean, it's great to be part of a bigger team instead of being all by, kind of out on an island.
Yes. Okay, and then number 11, what do you think are some of the major differences between, did I do that already? I guess.
No, I know kind of this. The 10 and 11 are pretty similar. But what are some of the major differences between Allina Home Oxygen in medical equipment and Adapt Health? I would say the biggest major differences is that Adapt Health is a national company, and Allina Home Oxygen and medical equipment was it was a big company, but it was local. I mean, we were only here in Minnesota, and now we're a nationwide, nationally traded on the stock market company. It's a much bigger company.
Okay. Later in the conversation, I have a question about employment.
Yep.
Let's see.
Number 12.
Number 12 is when you help somebody pick out it's still good, right?
Yep.
Okay. When you help somebody pick out a piece of equipment, what are some important things that you must consider?
I think the most important thing to consider is what is the client hoping to do. I mean, funding, of course, because I can't get you anything if I can't get it funded through insurance. It's impossible from there, but or unless somebody wants to fund it themselves, which is fine. But then after that, the next most important thing is what is the person hoping to do? Because if I know what they want to do, then we can work within the parameters of what's available to us to find the best option.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so number 13. Is Adapt Health currently hiring assistive technology professionals or rehab technicians?
I don't know. As far as I know, there's no open positions in Minnesota that I know of.
Okay.
But there may be some, since we're nationwide, I'm sure there's some somewhere. There's a lot of stores, so I bet you there's some somewhere.
Where can they go to find out information for career?
Adapt posts everything on Indeed.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. And number 14. somebody who wants to get into the field as either a rehab technician or an assistive technology professional, is this the field where they can make have a livable wage per year?
Yeah, I think that we're compensated pretty fairly. I'm not Bill Gates, that's for sure.
Right, yeah.
I'm not making
You're not the
millions
CEO.
and billions of dollars a year,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, I think ATPs and rehab techs and people who work in rehab in general are compensated pretty fairly, which I don't think is true of every field. I certainly wouldn't say that we're overpaid, but I don't think that we're underpaid either.
Okay. So here's kind of one question that's kind of personally related to me,
Sure.
but I'm just gonna ask it in,
Sure.
in a
Yeah, absolutely.
general sense.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of people over the years when I've tried to have relationships with girls,
Yep.
and they say, well, I would like to have a relationship with you, but I think it's too much work because you're in the wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what are some things that you could tell because obviously I'm a very nice man, have a very kind heart.
Yep.
And
a great beard.
And a great beard. But people are kind of afraid to do things with me. And that has been my perception.
Yep.
Of it.
Yep.
So what would you tell girls? If someone in a wheelchair came up to a girl and said, I want to date you.
Yep.
Or if a girl in a wheelchair came up to a guy that could walk and said, I want to date you.
Yep.
What would you tell them?
I would say that there's no reason to be afraid of the chair because the chair is just a piece of equipment. The chair is just a thing that enables you to make life go, enables you to do things that everybody else does, or anybody else. And people, it's not something to be afraid of. It can be. You kept saying, because we've talked about this once before, that they say it's too much work, and it's one little problem to solve, right? It's just how do you get the power chair to and from somewhere? Well, you take the bus, you get a mobility van, and you use the mobility van. It doesn't complicate things. The wheelchair isn't you. The wheelchair isn't the person that is interested in having a relationship. The wheelchair is just a device that person uses. Just like some people use a cane or a walker or a cell phone or a computer or an automobile. It's just a thing that you use. And the person that uses the device, that uses the assistive technology, whatever that assistive technology is still the same person. It's still the Chris with a kind heart,
right,
and awesome dad jokes.
Yeah.
Stuff like. I mean, that's what I would say. And it's not too much work. It's just a different way of doing life.
Yes, as you've talked about before. But Mr. Weisbro,
mm-hmm.
would you recommend a foldable wheelchair for because with me,
mm-hmm.
are there any challenges that a girl would have to do with a foldable wheelchair as opposed to a power wheelchair? Like getting it into a car trunk or something?
Yeah.
Is that pretty easy to do?
Yeah, manual wheelchairs are pretty easy, whether they're foldable or not, pretty easy to get in and out of cars. Foldable wheelchairs, I don't think are any easier or harder to get in and out of cars than rigid chairs, in my opinion. But it's one of those things where now you're getting into personal preference. I just have a personal preference, just like you have a personal preference, just like the producer over there has a personal preference. Everybody has a personal preference. And it's going to be pretty easy. The power chair is going to be harder to transport because they're heavy. A lot of them weigh close to 400 pounds. So you're going to need to either use a bus or a mobility van with a ramp to get that around. A manual chair can go into the back of any car, the trunk of any car. It's very, very easy to get those around. So.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I've said before, if you choose to have a relationship with somebody in a wheelchair and you're an ambulatory person,
yep.
you obviously are aware
yep.
that person is in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And it's not, people that say it's too much work, in my opinion, that's an excuse.
Yep.
Because when it comes down to it, if you really want to have a relationship with the person,
Yep.
and you have feelings for that person, the wheelchair and all of this stuff you have to do to help that person go
Yep.
where they want to go with you together, you do that out of love. That's not work.
Right. Yep. And it's pretty. And I would say to somebody who's interested in something like that to just give it a try, and you'll see that it's really not that much work.
But you have to get over the fear.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
So if they're not afraid, they'd be great for dating Cruiser Chris, and they could be a rehab technician.
Okay. But what if they are afraid? Well, did we kind of already cover that?
I think we kind of covered that, but I think if you are afraid, I would say just try it and see that it's really not that bad.
Okay.
It's really not that much work.
Okay.
It's just different, and people get nervous about doing things differently than what they're used to.
It's out of the norm.
Yep, it's out of the norm.
Yep. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this interview?
I would like to add that Cruiser Chris is the internet's most eligible bachelor, so you should call him at the Cruiser Chris hotline.
Yeah.
If you would like to go on a date with a guy with a great beard that's in a power wheelchair. That's what I would like to add.
I'm a sharp dressed man.
You are a sharp dressed man.
Okay.
What else did you have to add? You said you had a question about your backrest before I've got to go.
Oh, okay. So.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you do measurements already, Paul? Or?
Of you? No, not yet. We're going to do that once this video is done.
Okay. What is the difference, or what kind of backrest is that?
This one is called a J2 backrest.
Okay, what is that?
This is I believe this is coded, I'll let you figure, reword that for me. That's a deep question here.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Trying to be Walter Cronkite.
You are very Walter Cronkite.
Shallow into the deep is what I have to remember.
There you go.
What kind of, let me pre-qualify this question.
Okay, I'm ready.
With what kind of different backrests are available for a wheelchair?
Oh, there's tons. This one is a solid backrest. So this is metal, and it's got a foam pad with a cover on it. So this is a solid backrest. This is a positioning backrest. I'm pretty sure that this particular J2 is coded that way. I'm not an expert on remembering all things coding. That's why I look them up and check and make sure. But they make fabric backs. So for people with a foldable wheelchair, you can literally you don't have to take the backrest off. You can just pull up on the seat and it'll fold, and the backrest will fold at the same time. They make tension adjustable backrests. They make backrests like this, which is for somebody who doesn't need a lot of support because it doesn't have a ton of contour here where your back would rest. Somebody who needs a lot of support, this curved section would come up quite a bit further to keep somebody from leaning over. Mm-hmm. So this is like a 2-inch contour. They might even consider it a 3-inch contour. I mean, they make them all the way out to 7 or 8. They're pretty aggressive, I guess is the word I would use, but they have a lot more control for somebody who has issues with abnormal posture.
Right. Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Yep.
And now I'm going to have you trade out the backrest and do the cushion.
Okay.
What kind of different cushions are available out there?
This one's a J2, so you have a J2 back and a J2 cushion, but this one has a fluid pack in the back. It's not technically a gel, but it's a fluid, and basically a fluid cushion works on the principle that you're going to immerse your bony prominences and your pelvis just into this fluid, and it's going to support it from all directions. Whereas when you sit on a piece of foam, like an all foam cushion, you're going to be supported differently at different points. So the parts of you that hang the lowest, which would be your bony prominences, your pelvis, they're called ITs. for ischial tuberosities, right? There you go. There's something scientific for you, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
But those are going to be the lowest thing, which is where a lot of people get pressure injuries. So the reason that you have a cushion like this is to protect you from too much pressure over those bony prominences. And this gel has a bit of a positioning effect where it's going to kind of, once you're in it, it doesn't like run or move around like water. It kind of holds you in place a little bit. And then this has some contours for your legs to keep those in place. And there's a ridge here that will keep you back into the chair as well.
Like glutes.
Exactly. Yep. And
that would be a bony prominence, right?
That would be muscle.
Okay.
But then they also make cushions that work with air. So there's a Rojo cushion that you submerge into air. It's an air-filled cushion. So, but those are you kind of bounce around a little bit in. It's a little bit different. And they make cushions that are all foam. Some are memory foam. There's some work with an actual gel. Some work with a fluid like this one does. Mm-hmm. They make all different kinds of cushions that are some are wedged up like this to keep you back into the chair. It's called an anti-thrust cushion, and that's where like we talked about is what does the person want to do? What do they need? Somebody who's constantly sliding forward out of their chair all the time. Well, we might want to give them a cushion that's a little bit more like this, as long as it's going to meet their needs, to keep them from sliding out all the time so they don't have to reposition so much.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. With that, Paul has some, can we talk about what we did last week on the phone?
Yes.
The seating assessment is a 2-step process.
Yep.
So today we're filming the in-home portion of the process. But what did we do last week?
So last week we did a seating evaluation, but we did it virtually. So, and you're the first person I've done that with, a virtual one. It's a newer thing. It's kind of more common since COVID. But today we're going to do some of the pieces that I normally would have done there. We kind of got a lot of your history and information and stuff from the virtual seating eval, where I was with the therapist in clinic and you were here at your house. Today we're going to do some of the parts that I would have done there normally, but you weren't able to be in person. So we have to measure you to fit both the demo chair and your final chair when we pick one to you, so that we can order it correctly based on your anatomical body measurements.
Okay. Can I talk about what the element is? Like,
sure.
Like generally people will say, well, when I talk to somebody and I say, I gotta go do an element, and somebody who's a layman is gonna go, OP, like, because that's the next
LMNOP?
Because that's the next 2 letters after element.
There you go, okay.
So why does the therapist have to be part of the seating assessment?
Okay.
And then why do you need a letter of medical necessity?
Okay, so there's 3 kind of parts to most evaluations, 4 really, I guess. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's okay. So there's your doctor, because you had to get a prescription from your doctor to even go to a seating evaluation. You got to be you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To get there, your doctor has to say, yeah, I think a piece of equipment's a good idea for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the therapist, which is the person who's designed, or is not designed, is the person who's there to be the expert on you, if that makes sense, on your body, on the way your body moves. Okay, she or he's going to be kind of the expert on that. Mm-hmm. And then there's an ATP who's going to be the expert on equipment and the choices and the funding around that.
That's you.
Yep. So yeah, I'm not an expert, but I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
And then there's me.
And then there's the client, who's the most important person in the whole thing, right? Because you know the most about you and what you need to do every day. Mm-hmm. You know, the client always knows the most about themselves. They might want something that they don't qualify for, and there's nothing I can do about that, right? I mean, there's all kinds of things that we kind of have to juggle and trade off, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody's an important part of the team. So basically what happens when you do an evaluation is you get a prescription from your doctor because you need a piece of equipment, and the doctor says, yes, I agree, and they write a prescription for you to be evaluated for a piece of equipment, whatever the piece of equipment is.
Right.
and then the therapist and the ATP and the client all meet together at the same time usually. Sometimes the ATP can't make it, but the therapist and the client have to be there. I can't do seating evaluations by myself. That's against the rules. But we all get together and decide kind of what you need, with you telling us, you know what I mean? You're going to say, hey, I need a new backup manual wheelchair, or I need a new power chair because of X, Y, and Z, or LMNOP.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so from there, after that, I would get the client measured normally, and then come out with an appropriately sized demo of kind of what we're looking to try, like a demonstration chair. Sometimes I'll have 2 or 3, sometimes I'll only have 1, because somebody already knows what they want, because they're an experienced user. That, like, if you had said, no, Paul, I want to stick with a Quickie 2, or a Quickie, I want to only use Sunrise chairs, I would have said, okay, well, I'll bring you a Sunrise chair or 2. Here's 2 of their models, you know what I'm saying? If somebody already knows what they want and they're experienced, they can determine that themselves, versus somebody who's brand new who doesn't know. They might need to try 10 chairs,
Right.
or 4 or 3 or whatever it is, But so from there, once we know what kind of equipment and cushion and back and all that stuff we're going to go with, it's the ATP's job to specify all those out on order forms. So when we're done with yours, I'm gonna fill out a big long order form with all the different options of things that we need for you, and I'm gonna send those over to your therapist, who then will write a letter of medical necessity. That it was just the LMN. It's basically justifying every piece that costs insurance money. So if it costs the insurance $10, it's got to be justified on the letter of medical necessity. So they have to provide a reason with why Chris needs, or why the client needs what they need. And so once we have that back, we send that along with a whole bunch of documentation to the doctor for them to sign off saying they agree. Because if I could say that Chris needs rocket boosters on his power chair, the doctor might not agree with that. They don't have to sign, and then the whole thing stops right there.
Chris wants a jetpack.
And Chris wants a jetpack.
Yeah.
It's medically, it'd be hard to medically justify that.
Yeah.
So, but once the doctor signs off saying they agree with plan of care, or the piece of equipment, then we send it off to insurance after that and wait for them to respond with a yes or a no, or we need more information, or whatever.
Okay. I have a question about a power chair.
I'm ready.
Should we ask it now or wait till we do something specific with a power chair?
That's up to you.
Okay. Let's do it now.
Okay.
Okay. I have a Invacare Rovi
Yep.
power chair here.
Yep.
When it first came to me, it didn't have a light package on it.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the light package have to be an extra purchase, and why isn't it covered by insurance?
It doesn't have to be extra. It could be done at the time originally when you get the chair. It could have been done then. I'm not sure why you didn't. I mean, not everybody needs one, and not everybody can medically justify one. This is your only mode of transportation, and sometimes you have to drive at night.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Some other people, if you can drive a car, insurance isn't going to, you know what I mean? Does that
Right.
make sense? Why would they pay for you to get a light kit? In their mind, unless we have some other reason to do it. There's, it's not required to be separate, for sure. It could be ordered with the chair, but it's one of those things. Maybe nobody brought it up at the evaluation. Maybe you forgot to say, hey, I really want a light kit. You know what I mean? Like, there could be a million reasons why it didn't happen, but sometimes that happens, and then we just ended up adding it later separately, and
Right.
it all worked out just fine.
Right. So what you're basically saying is you have to request the light kit when you're at the seating assessment, or you have to say something. Hey, I'm
Right. Or somebody does. Somebody has to say, hey, I could say it too, or the therapist could say it. Hey, Chris, do you think you need a light kit? They could say that. They could ask that question as well, not just you. But it's always best if you know going into something to self-advocate and say, hey, I would really like to get a light kit because I don't like driving at night without one.
Because I travel at night.
Yeah, to your back and forth to friends or relatives or wherever.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not that insurance won't cover it.
Correct. Depending on the insurance. Some won't and some will, and that's kind of getting into the weeds.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Weisbro. I know this has been a really long, strenuous, and tiresome.
Oh man, you might just sweat off my brow here. Yeah.
You just feel like you've climbed up.
Yes, I do a little bit.
So we would like to thank you for coming out again, and we will have the TiLite. Did TiLite used to be a part of Permobile?
TiLite is a part of Permobile now. It used to be separate. It was purchased by Permobile.
Okay, so what does Permobile do?
Permobile makes power chairs primarily.
And TiLite is
a manual wheelchair that they own. That company. They're all part of the same team.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weisbro, for coming out. And if you are an ATP now.
Yep.
So that means you can go if people want to request you.
Yes, they certainly could. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do they go about requesting you?
They would have to, if they live in Minnesota, because I'm not going to go outside of Minnesota or Wisconsin. I'm not going to go to Iowa or New York for evaluations, but they would just have to call Adapt Health Minnesota and request me by my name, which is Paul Weisbro.
Okay. And do you have a number that people can get a hold of you at?
Yes, 763-689-7737. That's the number for our branch up in Cambridge.
Okay. And then when they answer when the phone is answered by the automated system, what option do they push?
They've changed it so many times I don't even know, Chris. It's changed 3 or 4 times. What's that? Yeah.
I think it's 9.
I think it used to be 9. I think it might be 3 now, but I'm not positive because it just changed last week.
Okay. Well,
they got to listen and wait for Rehab and then just press that one.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weisbro. And if people like watching these interviews that I do with, like Tim and you the first time around, where can they go? How can they get on to the Cruiser Chris World Network?
They need to go into YouTube and type in Cruiser Chris World Network and search it out, and they need to like and subscribe, and they need to send him a private message to ask for his phone number because he's YouTube's most eligible bachelor.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yep.
You're doing good holding back your laugh.
Okay. Okay, this concludes today's interview. Hopefully you've enjoyed the interview, and we will see you in the next video.
I know I did. I'll see you in the next one, Chris.
Okay. And the information on your screen contains the street address, hours of operation, and phone number for Adapt Health Cambridge. If you would like to contact somebody in the Cambridge location, please use this information to help you with that. Adapt Health is extremely concerned for the health and well-being of our staff and clients. Because of this, we are not taking walk-in appointments at this time. If you would like to make an appointment, please call 612-262-7458. If you would like to find out more information about one of our products, please go to adapthealth.com. These are forms with the steps of what you need to do to get a new wheelchair. The previous program was a Cruiser Chris World Network presentation. If you found it enjoyable and interesting and helpful for you, please follow the information on the screen to show support for us. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Leave an organic comment so that we can continue to be here to bring you these videos. Thank you for your support and have a good day.